Did you ever have a crush on that high school teacher? How did it end up? Not myself, but a few girls had a crush on the swim teacher coach, and a few of them ended up pregnant and he ended up in prison. Guess he had strong little swimmers. Get the wholesome award, more like wholesome. Thank you for all the awards and laughs. Rangarup vote to just take it and get out? Might just float around for a bit before I leave. Bruh. Yes, it ended up with me no longer having a crush on them. Same. Then found out my 16-year-old son got him as his English teacher. He looked bloated, shorter than I remember, and not cool. That's a really harsh thing to say about your own son. Edit. Stop giving this comment awards. You mouth-breathing shitfists, the fuck is wrong with you? Are we really not doing the OL Reddit switcheroo anymore? We should get that and phrasing back in the mix. It ended up her telling me to focus on my studies after I gave her a love letter, which she returned back. She also circled all the spelling mistakes in red ink and wrote, "See me." It was a very confusing thing. Definitely mixed signals. Graded it a D, which dropped his grade, but the D was also a heart, so she wanted to give you the D. I slept with my 11th grade English teacher. To be fair, this was years after high school when I was 28 and she was 38. I'd traveled back to my hometown for a mate's wedding. She was a friend of the bride. This is a pretty small town, so everyone knows everyone. We sat at the same table. We both got a little drunk and flirtatious. I spent the night at her place. It was fun, but I'm pretty certain the entire town knows. Town in shock as to adults nearly 30 and 40 have sex. The horror. Clutches pearls. Clutches something else. I had a crush on my math teacher, so I took 2 classes as electives. That's at the end of the story. I am an accountant now, though. The sexiest of all professions. Stupid sexy accountant Flanders. My IT teacher was really hot. All the dudes had a crush on her. Nothing happened. I left school and she added me on Facebook. We'd spoken a lot about mental health stuff because I'm autistic and she had an autistic brother. Lot of time to just aimlessly chat in an early 2000s IT class waiting for shit to load. Anyway, a few years later I was in a homeless shelter. There was this total nutbag there who kept getting the shit kicked out of him because he was delusional and would accuse people of shit constantly. He ended up getting kicked out. I went to buy some weed from the dealer all the shelter residents used the same day. He was there, loudly shouting, "You don't fuck with a teacher's surname," and thought to myself, well, now I wonder. So I asked him if he had a sister named teacher's first name. Got no response from him. Just a weird stare. So I pulled out my phone, brought up Facebook, and showed him a photo. "Is this your sister? How do you have photos of my sister on your phone?" and just flipped the fuck out at me. Tried to take a swing. I just moved out of the way and he got dragged off by some other customers. Told his sister the story via Facebook, and her first response was, "What are you doing in a shelter?" She ended up giving me a job for a while to get me on my feet. Ho, that's a heartwarming story out of the blue. Nice storytelling skill, by the way. Did you take a storytelling class or something? I'm sorry you were homeless at one point. If you think that's heartwarming, wait till he tells you about his storytelling class. My storytelling class teacher was really hot. All the dudes had a crush on her. Nothing happened. I left class and she added me on Facebook. We'd spoken a lot about mental health stuff because I'm autistic and she had an autistic brother. Lot of time to just aimlessly chat in a late 2000s storytelling class waiting for ideas to flow. Anyway, a few years later I was in a homeless shelter again. There was this total nutbag there who kept getting the shit kicked out of him because he was delusional and would accuse people of shit constantly. He ended up getting kicked out. I went to buy some weed from the dealer all the shelter residents used the same day. He was there, loudly shouting, "You don't fuck with a teacher's surname," and thought to myself, this is all too familiar. I wonder. So I asked him if he had a sister named Storytelling Teacher's first name. Got no response from him. Just a weird stare. So I pulled out my phone, brought up Facebook, and showed him a photo. "Is this your sister? How do you have photos of my sister on your phone?" And just flipped the fuck out at me. Tried to take a swing. I just moved out of the way and he got dragged off by some other customers. Told his sister the story via Facebook, and her first response was, "What are you doing in a shelter?" She ended up giving me a job for a while to get me on my feet. Anyway, I've been trapped in this time loop for over 20 years now, and there's no signs of it stopping. Would that this loop be a time loop? Grade 10 biology teacher. She was really young. Must have been fresh out of teacher's college. Really bubbly and cheerful. Willing to help students. Really seemed to care about her work, which was not the norm at my high school. I don't remember her name, I mean. It's been over 25 years and biology was one of the subjects I didn't pursue to completion. Never did anything about it. Dear reader, if you were a petite biology teacher in Scarborough, Ontario in the 90s, and remember boasting about having a playset of Beta Sarah angels to a tall, ogreish, socially maladjusted student, hit me up. I'd love to buy you a drink and catch up, even if it's just platonic. I thought you were so cool. What a lad. May God help you on your journey. I had a crush on my best friend's dad. He was only 17 when he had her, and he was hot, not just good looking. Hot. At one point she asked if there was something bad going on at my house, because I always wanted to do sleepovers at her place, even though my mom was a fabulous cook and her dad couldn't cook for shite. Then she'd talk about her crushes, and I'd be so tempted to tell her I'm just practicing for when I'm your mom. Are you sure there wasn't something bad going on at your house? My thoughts about this guy were the only bad things in my house. Lol. I love all your replies. Do you write? Dank, only on Reddit, but I do read a lot. Miss Flores, MMM, really fancied my Spanish teacher. She was quite posh English, but had a wonderful Spanish accent. We danced in a bar when I was in 6th form. And then about a year after leaving school, I saw she had a kid with someone from the year below. Emmy, I am content. El contento? Not too shabby. Emmanuel Macron. Bridget ended up First Lady of France. I still can't figure this out. He was in her daughter's class and came to her house to study. His parents sent him study in Paris when he was 16. She followed him. WTF. The fuck is she's a massive predatory creep, but apparently it's okay. It's not, but it was 35 years ago, and French people mostly GGAF about their leader's private life. Nothing happened. She was a student teacher from the local college. They would do half a semester teaching a class. I thought she was gorgeous. I always sat in the front row, answered all the questions, tried to have conversations after class. She always wore short skirts and tight tops. Thank God I never had to get up in front of the class. Relevant username. I think. I hope it's not. It ended up nothing like what I saw on Brazzers. Yeah, Lisa, and didn't teach at my school either. Not at mine either, nor did Zoe Holloway or Ted Cruz's favorite star Corey Chase. Yes, but she was an adult and not into pedophilia, so nothing happened, and I eventually graduated and moved away. You say into pedophilia like it's a normal thing. Probably a dig at Op, who is asking this question despite being a teacher herself. Op is most likely pretending to be one. Hopefully. Yes, he was in his mid-20s when I was in high school. My best friend had him for a teacher and actually told him that I had a crush on him, and I was mortified. Fast forward 20 years and come to find out, he is still a teacher at my high school, divorced, and is known to date former students after they graduate and are over 18. He actually lives in my current town and used to go to my gym. On more than one occasion, I could see him in the reflection of the mirror watching me work out. Holy crap! Creepy? I graduated high school, never saw him again, and genuinely couldn't tell you a single thing about him today. In retrospect, I don't even remember if he was actually cute or if he was just the only teacher in the school under 30. Yeah, I think the only crush I had was because she was a woman that wasn't over 60. I had a crush on my middle school science teacher. It turns out she was cheating on her husband with the married gym coach. She married him. A few years later, she left him for another married man. She then dumped him. Later, she got with another married man. She took his wife's place as co-owner of the company he was preparing to start with his wife. She is currently married to him. And you still don't see the red flag, do you? Kids, never start a relationship with a cheater. Not gonna work out. When I was in the 7th grade, we had a beautiful student teacher with very large breasts, and every boy in class was very clearly fixated on this poor woman. To make matters worse, all the girls in class then started to hate her in retaliation and tried to start rumors about her and call her names behind her back and all that middle school bullshit. That's the thing. I always thought that when women say men body shame women all the time, I've always thought it was actually the women doing it to themselves more than the men. I can't be the only one with this opinion. Don't get me wrong, men do it a lot, but I feel like it's nowhere near the amount women do to other women. I think they're blaming us for something that they do honestly. Girls can be so vicious sometimes. Girls can be absolutely vicious to other girls when you combine body image and jealousy, especially during puberty. In middle school, my friend's breasts doubled in size over the summer and were huge once school started, and was immediately hit with rumors by other girls that she let anyone touch play with them for doing her homework. Why did they start that rumor? Jealousy of her friend group, which included lots of boys since she played baseball and hockey, and boob envy, because she had the biggest ones until high school. Yep. There was a girl in my group of friends as we hit middle school who had a similar change over one summer. The girls in the group started vicious rumors about her letting any of us guys touch them and worse, and stopped being friends with her. And I know the rumors were not true because me and the guys talked about it, and she sure wasn't letting any of you touch them. Girl in my class had a flirtatious relationship with our social science teacher in high school. Immediately after graduation, she went up to him and said, "I want you," and he said, "I always told you guys to go after what you want, didn't I?" At least that's what she said happened. But they got married and had 2 kids. Divorced a few years later, but hey, she shot her shot. It was scandalous in our little town, of course. He was like 28, I think. Yeah, that sounds like they were absolutely fooling around while she was a student, and her cover story of "I went up to him immediately after graduation" was to give some plausible deniability to prevent him being fired and or imprisoned. She would frequently embellish things. Most times she told the truth, but every so often we'd be like, that's not quite right. But yeah, it was very obvious to the whole class that they were at least flirting quite heavily. Looking back, I'm mystified that he wasn't disciplined over the whole thing. Didn't even change schools when they linked. She was my 11th grade English teacher, and she was smoking hot. All the guys had a crush on her, but for some reason, possibly because I was an avid reader, she took a shine to me. Nothing inappropriate ever happened. She moved across the country the next year when her husband's office relocated, but we kept up a very platonic student-teacher correspondence for a while. My friends were freaking out that I, at 16, had somehow found a magic formula to get an 11 out of 10 woman to be interested in me. To my young horny male credit, I never exaggerated the relationship to be more than it was, and never bragged about it other than I had a friend every other guy wished they had. Honestly, I'm more proud of your horny younger self not bragging about it. Great job. Haha, it actually amazes me too. And once she moved away, I was on a first-name basis with her and her husband. Another fact that blew my friends' minds.